Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to read my book, the first novel that I ever wrote. I wrote self-published one poetry book, and then I self-published a novel. I'm not quite sure how to get anything else published traditionally, so I just did it self-publish. Anyway, on with the book. This book is called Life, Sex, Delusions. It is about a teenager who loses his dad when he's 3 years old, and his mom becomes an alcoholic, and all he wants to do is get out of the house. So his uncle teaches him to play guitar, and he uses that as an escape and a goal for the future to start his own band. So here we go. Chapter 1. I sat Indian style, staring at the bright orange sky. The sun was setting over the ocean in Santa Monica, California, as if it chose to throw in the towel and drown. However, the sun always returns, whether we would like it to or not. It's not about the actions of our surroundings and how they affect us, but how we choose to affect our surroundings. Life has no wrong answers when it comes to perspective. Hours later, I walked back into the lobby of my apartment complex. The assistant manager, Miles, a slim, dark-haired gentleman who could be mistaken for Pee Wee Herman in a red suit, approached me. Mr. Broski? He pronounced my name with an O sound. The correct pronunciation is Broski, like the O in odd. It's pronounced Broski, I replied. Yes, well, there's a woman here to see you. As he pointed at the corner of the lobby to a brunette in glasses. Her hair was in an updo. There she was, Sarah, the one that I thought I'd never see again. I just realized you have no idea who the fuck I'm talking about. Come with me. I'll show you, because just like sex, if you finish before you even get started, something is wrong with you. Hi, my name is Calvin Broski, pronounced Broski as I've already explained. I grew up in this crazy town they call Gurnee, Illinois. Such a boring town. The only place that's exciting is Six Flags theme park. Other than that, you've got your bars, a couple gyms, restaurants, libraries, medical centers, schools, and a mall run by corporate Nazis. Around the age of 3, I was pretty much, for the most part, raised by television. We lived in Glenview, Illinois. That year, my brother Kurt just turned 8. He got his first game system, an NES. Our babysitter, Mrs. Doring, her personality matched the words that rhymed with her name, would rarely let us go outside. She was probably afraid that we'd run into the street or something. Mrs. Doring was a pudgy woman with dark hair, big glasses, and a head that looked like a big, fat, blotchy potato. My brother would usually go to school and I would play Mario while he was gone. I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved to move the animated characters around. Mrs. Doring would usually just sit and listen to the radio while practicing her knitting. She would watch us while my parents worked. My mom was a nurse at the local hospital. Mom didn't talk about work much, although she always came home feeling exhausted. My dad was a truck driver, so he wasn't home much. My mom was an alcoholic, which was mainly caused by my dad's absence. Sometimes she would pass out and leave us figuring things out on our own. One night, my brother and I stayed up to play Mario when we heard a fire truck come roaring down the street. Our mom immediately woke from her drunken stupor, screaming, "Fire! Fire! We're gonna die! Oh my God, no! Please! Please!" She grabbed me by the shirt and shook me. I got so scared that I broke free and ran into my room to hide under my covers, which is not what you do during a fire, kids. My brother came upstairs to tell me what happened. Our neighbor, Mrs. Rhodes, had allegedly tried to burn down her house after an episode of depression. Of course, I am just putting this together now. The way my brother put it, Mrs. Rhodes went apeshit. He learned that colorful use of language from my parents after they fought. Kurt was pretty athletic for someone who didn't get out much. We got out during weekends, though, when our mother was home. Kurt was about 4 feet tall, brown curly hair, and a freckled face. He wore sweatpants a lot. We didn't have a lot of time to shop for new clothes. On days when my mom was home, he would tie up his red and white sneakers, tie his sweatpants, then he would tie my sweatpants and strap on my shoes to go play basketball out in the driveway. I was horrible at basketball, but I liked to play anyway, to see if I could ever beat Kurt. We moved with the breeze like leaves, falling for a purpose, moving towards its pinnacle, only in reverse. Swaying back and forth with our actions until we attempted the final shot before dinner time. The three of us sat at the table and ate quietly. We got used to avoid conversations with our mom after 5 o'clock because of how awkward it would get at times. Our dad came home and we hugged his sides. "How you little furballs doing?" he'd ask. We hadn't had a haircut in quite some time either. I had blonde hair that went down in one eye, and Kurt had really poofy, curly hair. My dad was 30, 6 feet tall, and he was really muscular, macho kind of guy. He had dark hair with a buzz cut under his trucker hat. He wore big yellow tinted shades and had a thick mustache. Although it was the 80s, he looked like he was still living in the 70s. My mom was 32 years old and 5 feet tall. She was fairly skinny with her dark hair. And she had dark hair. She kind of looked like Audrey Hepburn, but with rougher skin. She hadn't smoked in years, but her drinking and history with smoking took a real toll on her image. One night when my dad came home, I had this dream. I was lifted by a big purple hand and thrown down the stairs. I woke up screaming with my head upside down and my body on the bottom step. My parents were in their room yelling and arguing about how my dad was never home. My brother rushed over to the stairs and yelled, "Mom! Dad! Hurry! Cal fell down the stairs!" So my parents rushed down to make sure I was okay and put me back to sleep. A few nights later, my dad left again. I had a feeling that something was wrong. Even though they had a big fight before he left, I hated seeing them fight. But whenever I tried to stop them, Mom would yell, "No! I have a right!" The next day, after my brother came home from school, my mom came in sobbing. "What's wrong, Mama?" I asked. I felt her pain. It scared me. "Boys, last night, there was an accident on the road. Your father, Daddy, he's gone," she screamed. "He's gone!" "Oh dear," Mrs. Doring would say, as tears fell down Mom's face like a waterfall. She squeezed us as tight as she possibly could. We all cried in her arms. I was crying from my own emotions and felt her pain as well. I hated that feeling. Chapter 2. 8 years later, June 10th, 94, to be specific, I had turned 11 in 1989. We moved to a ranch house in Gurnee, Illinois. We didn't do anything special for my birthday or anything. We just ordered pizza and ate cake. My mom came home early to celebrate. My brother and I would take turns on Mario afterward. He turned 16 March 8th. Kurt was approaching the flag at the top of every level. He jumped, but just barely missed the flag on World 4. "Fuck!" he shouted. "Kurt, watch your mouth," Mom would say. "I'm sorry, but when your emotions get jerked, things get tense. It's like a mental reflex. I can't help it." As he shook his controller tightly in his hands. Kurt would cuss every chance he got when our mom wasn't home, which was 5-6 days a week depending on the work week. Kurt had friends in school, but he never really hung out with anyone. At the time, he preferred to listen to Stiff Little Fingers albums and either watch TV or play Nintendo all day. People would invite him over to their house, but he'd always make up some excuse. I think it had to do with our dad's death and not wanting to be around other families. Our dad's death affected him still quite a lot. Whenever he'd see a truck, he'd always zone out, like he was in some kind of trance. Our uncle on our dad's side, Uncle Jared, who was 33 at the time, started coming around a month later. We found that strange, since Uncle Jared only came around a couple times during the 80s for Kurt's birthday parties. He was kind of a hippie with long brown hair and a scraggly beard. He wore a brown fringe jacket and bell bottoms. He walked over to us in the living room. "Hey, how you guys doing?" "Hi," I replied. Kurt was focusing on dodging fire bars in Super Mario that were revolving in his path. "Man, your generation does not understand, man. You kids get your parents to buy you this shit. You feed corporations. One day these corporations are gonna be so big, they'll have the power to do anything," he shouted. "Whatever, man, as long as you can kill some time, right?" Uncle Jared was rather passionate about our country being enslaved by corporations. Better to kill time than kill myself, Kurt replied softly. Whatever, man, if you got out and socialized, maybe you wouldn't think like that. Uncle Jared did have a point. Being with people is a distraction and has its moments. You're right. I'll go to high school parties and get wasted. Then maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get a ride home from a friend who's had too much to drink. Then we can all go out with a bang and climb the stairway to heaven. Maybe I'll see Dad. No one said a single word after that for at least 5 minutes. Whatever, man. See you guys later. Then Uncle Jared walked out and slammed the door. A week later, I was walking to my table in the school cafeteria. I always brought my own lunch, considering Mom didn't want to pay for the cafeteria food. I usually packed a ham sandwich, banana, and potato chips for lunch, but occasionally I'd have Lunchables. I was almost at my seat when my shoelaces came untied and I tripped. My lunch bag went flying. My banana hit the floor and got smashed by another kid's foot. Then my potato chips got smashed. Luckily, I was able to grab my sandwich. That's when a kid who wasn't watching where he was going tripped over me. And then, as he got out of his seat, he tried to finish his half carton of milk, but he stumbled, which caused it to end up all over my head and face. Everyone around me couldn't stop laughing. Then came the random insults. Retard, freak, pussy. Ah, what a glorious day. I was never good at tying my shoes. They were always too loose. Whenever I'd tie them, I felt pretty stupid. I went to the restroom later that day. I ran into Mike Cass and Roger Wood. Both of them were short and chubby. Mike was a little heavier and a couple inches taller than Roger. He had a pear-shaped face and had long dark brown hair that went into his eyes. Roger had short spiky hair that was quite a bit lighter than Mike's. They walked over to me. Hey freak, did you get a nice shower today? Mike said as he spit in my face. I gotta pee, man, just leave me alone. I quickly maneuvered past them and walked to the toilet stall. Hey Mike, let's give him a hand, Roger said with a smirk. They quickly inched behind me as I entered the stall. Before I could turn around, Roger hooked my arm and started pushing my head with his other hand towards the toilet. I tried to fight out of it, but Mike swept my legs and sent my face down into the toilet. Both of them pushed my head into the toilet water and held it there for 5 seconds. They took turns, 3 times each, and then proceeded to run back to class, laughing in the halls. I looked down and realized from all the action, I had stained my jeans. As I returned to class, my teacher, Mr. Barb, had asked me what happened. I just shook my head. Don't worry about it, I told him. I got off the bus and went home. Kurt always got home from school an hour before I did. I took my shoes off at the foyer. My brother's stereo was cranking Suspect Device by Stiff Little Fingers from our bedroom. He listened to a lot of punk bands. Black Flag. Cocksparrer, The Addicts, G.G. Allen, Sex Pistols, and Minor Threat, to name a few. I like that genre. The energy they brought with the lyrics they sang, I was especially feeling the angst at that moment. Kurt was playing Mario in the living room, but I decided to lay in my bed and listen to music for a while. He walked in and saw me lying there, then sat on his bed. "What's wrong with you?" "Nothing. Just don't feel that great today," I replied, as I rolled over to face the wall. "Why?" Kurt asked. He kicked his feet up on his bed and laid back. "Headache." I didn't feel like going into it with him. I just wanted to let the day pass by. "What's that smell?" he inquired. I had forgotten to change out of my jeans. I grabbed a new pair and marched into the bathroom. Things were slightly better the next day. The harassment at school continued. I was able to use the restroom without drinking toilet water or pissing myself, though. At lunch, kids were tossing their food at my head randomly. I got up at the end of the period to throw my lunch away. Somebody had saved their mashed potatoes for the end. They hit me square in the center of my face, and they ran away before they got caught. Uncle Jared was waiting for me on the couch when I came home from school. "Good, you're home. I can show you what I got." He jumped to his feet and sprinted out to his car. He brought in a brown guitar case. "Hold the door open for me." Uncle Jared ran back outside while I held the door. He carried in a 12-inch Marshall amp and put it in our room. There was almost nowhere to put it, but in the corner near the foot of our bed. "You guys want to kill time, man? Do something useful with that time. Rock out. I'll even show you how to play. This guitar is for both of you, until one of you can get another one. It's your best bet." He opened the case, and there was a 1994 black Fender Squier inside. It was a pretty decent guitar for a gift. Uncle Jared hooked up the amp and taught us the basics for a few hours. The first song he taught us was Iron Man by Black Sabbath. My brother had played for a while, then he would show me how to do it. I had a little trouble with my fingers, but I got the hang of it pretty fast. The distorted sound punching into the air, chord by chord. It was really therapeutic to have this tool of performance and creation that can channel your energy. That guitar helped me a lot over the years. Most weeknights after Kurt turned 16, our mom would work late nights, so she would stay overnight at the hospital. We really didn't have a curfew, but we weren't stupid. We kept our volume on the amp low after 8 p.m. We would jam out to Black Sabbath on Kurt's stereo. One of us would sing, and one of us would play. Then we'd trade off. It almost felt like I was in some kind of institution. I went to school, dealt with kids who seemed psychotic, and went home for therapy sessions with my guitar. I have to hand it to my uncle. He sounds crazy at times, but he was dead on when it came to playing guitar. As he explained to us while giving us our lesson, This is your weapon. This is your voice. This is your teacher. This is your friend. This is who you express your feelings to. It will listen to you, just like you listen to it. This is your genie when you need a wish. Your lock and key. This alone will set you free. After that, our lives were forever changed. Chapter 3. 5 years later, I was a 16-year-old in high school. I basically looked the same as always, except I was 5'5", wore white shirts that I drew punk bands' names and symbols on. I wore boots that you strap on instead of tie. My voice was deeper as well. My brother was 21 at the time. He joined a hardcore punk band that he eventually started touring with. His band was called Cheap, which was a Mario reference. Can you tell who started the band? Since he went on tour, I was stuck with Mario as my therapy for a while. April 1999. Before class started, I was listening to my Stiff Little Fingers CD on my Walkman and looking at my Guitar Gear magazine when Scotty Rivers tapped me on the shoulder. Scotty was a 5-foot tall, skinny kid with glasses and a blonde mohawk. He looked like De Niro in Taxi Driver with blonde hair. He had a round face and blue eyes with a pointy nose and a wide smile. He kind of looked like a science nerd who was rebelling against an A- that he got in science class. "Hey man, you play guitar?" I took my headphones off and looked at him. "Huh?" He pointed at my Guitar Gear magazine. "Do you play?" I sighed. "Well, I used to have a guitar, but my brother and I shared it. Now he went on tour with his band, so now I'm just dreaming." I really did miss that guitar. I missed my brother a lot too. Ever since he left, my mother had been drinking a lot more. It was frustrating being alone with her in that condition. "Ah, I see. Cool. Are you listening to Stiff Little Fingers?" I nodded. "It's my brother Kurt's CD, but he let me keep this one." "What's the name of his band?" Cheap. The last two are spelled with 2 E's, like the fish in Super Mario. That was his favorite game. Scotty laughed and shook his head. "Can't go wrong with Mario." For the next few minutes, it was quiet. The bell was about to ring when Scotty asked, "Are you doing anything after school today?" I froze for a second. I never really hung out with anyone but my brother or my uncle usually. No, not really." "Cool. My cousin is picking me up, and we have a couple friends. After school, we're gonna jam. You coming?" I paused for a second. "I don't have a..." "Don't worry, man. I have a couple Gibsons at home." "Okay, I guess." I hadn't played guitar in a couple months, so I was worried about how I would sound. "Nice. What's your name, brother?" he asked. "Calvin Broski," I replied. Cool. I'm Scotty Rivers." Then the bell rang as we propped up against the rough white bricks of Borden High. Scotty slapped me on the shoulder. "See you later, brother." He bolted down the hall, bumping into people and pissing off the jocks. He was a weird kid. I wondered what I got myself into. I walked out of the campus after school and waited around by a pillar. I looked around for Scotty but couldn't find him. Then I felt a hand slap my shoulder and a figure brushed past me. It was Scotty and a tall, dark-haired kid with spiky hair. The other kid had a round jaw and a wide forehead. He kind of reminded me of Corey Feldman, the way his brown eyes and cheeks looked. He was wearing red plaid skinny pants and a black Ramones shirt and combat boots. Now, he was a cool kid, but my first impression of him was he was a poser. Now, I'm not going to go off on a rant and talk about what punk is and what punk isn't, but when kids don't even listen to punk, and they start wearing the shirt, and then they label themselves a punker, there's something wrong there. Me, I live by some of the ideals, but I never really called myself a punker. I feel like if you label yourself, you're going by a set of rules that you're eventually bound to break. So I prefer to just be that weird guy. "This way, brother," Scotty shouted as they jogged over to his cousin's white pickup truck. His cousin was 19. He looked like he played football or could be a pro wrestler. He was a big tan-skinned guy with a shaved head, round face, and a goatee. He had a tattoo on his right shoulder. The tattoo was an Iroquois with a mohawk and a bloody tear coming down his right eye. I was guessing he was part native. "Who's the new guy?" his cousin grunted as we hopped into the bed of the pickup. His cousin's voice reminded me of Tim Taylor from Home Improvement when he made his grunting noises. "Calvin Broski." Scotty pronounced Broski with an O sound. I rolled my eyes. "Broski, man. Broski." "Well, whatever. This is Casey." "Sup?" Got the wrong voice. "Sup?" I said, and Casey nodded back. "So where are the other two clowns?" Casey grunted. He had kind of a trucker's voice, really rough like a smoker. "They should be coming in any minute now. Scotty replied. "I'm Devin," the kid said. "So are you gonna jam with us, punkers?" he asked. See what I mean? I nodded to him. Then a short, 4-foot ginger kid with spiky red hair, an oval-shaped face, a snub nose, green eyes, and buck teeth came over with his friend. His friend was a tan, chubby kid, kind of Hispanic ethnicity, who had a round body and a round face with his short dark hair. "Come on, let's roll," Casey shouted. "Okay, I had to wait for Marcos. He can't move that fast," the ginger kid replied. Apparently, Marcos was the chubby kid's name. Scotty started introducing us. Brad, Marcos, Calvin. They were both 14, but they sounded 12 or 13 with their pre-pubescent voices. We drove out of the parking lot as the wind blew through our hair. 2 cheerleaders were walking up ahead, on the right side of the road. "Paris hard ahoy!" Bradley yelled, as Casey slowed the truck down. Paris was a tan-skinned blonde girl. She was also the head cheerleader. Then Marcos stood up with his butt facing Paris. "Hey, Paris!" Bradley shouted. Right when she looked in our direction, Marcos pulled down his pants and mooned her. Then he immediately farted. "Ooh, he just blew you a kiss," Scotty shouted, as they all laughed. I just smiled and shook my head. It wasn't very mature, but I really hated judgmental people like that. Paris was definitely judgmental. When I got picked on by the jocks in the cafeteria, she would laugh and join in. As immature as it was, it did no harm. Not compared to the swirlies, the drinks poured on my head, the face slams into my locker, and every other physical activity that happened. That little stunt wasn't even half to the point of being close to their actions. We arrived at Scotty's house and hopped on the truck. He lived in a light blue 2-story wooden house with a balcony in front of the master bedroom. We walked up the dirt path into his backyard, down a slope, and then down the stairs into his basement. "Wait," Devin said as we turned to him. "I'm gonna get baked first. Casey, you wanna join me out here?" "Nah, man. I'm good right now." Then he looked at me and gestured, raising his eyebrows. "Nah, thanks though." I never smoked anything before. I guess it's due to the fact that you have to interact with people in order to get stuff like that. My brother didn't do it either. At least not around me. I was curious though. I guess I had to be in the right state of mind for it. As we waited for Devin to get on the drums, we sat around and talked for a bit. "Hey Cal, what's your email?" Scotty asked. I paused, feeling awkward for a moment. I don't have one. I used to have a computer to print papers, but if I need to look something up, I have to use the ones at the library." "Oh, then, what's your home phone?" Around this time, none of us had cell phones. Most of them had emails to contact each other. I was always home, so I never really needed a cell. 697-4663. That means something in code. If you look at your phone, you can decipher it. Then Scotty repeated the numbers and wrote them down. "Got it. Here's mine." He wrote his number on a sheet, and I looked at it for a moment. Scotty, 277-4653. More code. Then I put the sheet in my pocket. "So Casey, do you have a job or anything?" I asked. Casey let out a laugh. "Yeah, I work at Greaser Greg's Auto, fixing trucks." I nodded. "So where's your guitar?" I asked. Scotty went to get the case from his room and put it in front of me. When he came back, I opened it. It was a cherry red Gibson SG-61 reissue. It looked just like Angus Young's Gibson guitar. I plugged in and started playing. I learned some new songs over the past few years. I played a couple chords and then started playing the first few chords to "Gotta Get Away" by Stiff Little Fingers. Do, 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 do. Then Casey hooked up his bass and started playing along. Scotty sang the beginning verse. He had a voice that sounded like a mix between Michael Graves from the Misfits and Sean Nelson from Harvey Danger. His voice sounded really good, in my opinion. Better than that Something Corporate Grouper Newfound Glory that came years later. Don't get me wrong, those bands have good musicians, but whenever they sing that whiny, nasally sound, it's just difficult for me to listen to. Levanta! Devin shouted as he leapt down the steps into the basement. He swung around, grabbed the mic stand, and then started to sing I Get a Kick Out of You by Cole Porter. He had a very soulful voice. Then he started singing really, really high. And then we all started laughing. Okay, Andy Gibb, my turn, brother, Scotty said as he grabbed the mic. Then Devin got on the drums and got warmed up. He was definitely a better drummer than singer. I slid the first few chords to Iron Man, and we started to play. Devin sped up the beat a little. It sounded different, but I liked it. Soon we would play Nirvana songs from the Bleach era. Then Offspring, Sex Pistols, and even created some of our own tunes that Scotty recorded with his tape recorder. He would add lyrics later after listening. After the jam session was over, we packed everything up and sat around for a few minutes before we called it a night. How do you get all this equipment, Scotty? I asked. My dad was a musician. My dad was a musician. Oh, what does he do now? Then Scotty fidgeted with the mic stand and looked down. At the moment, I realized that Scotty and I had something in common. He died a year ago in his sleep. Heart failure. Then it all made sense. The whole nerd rebellion image. He was rebelling against a universe that seemed to take people away without warning. Like a kick to the nuts. Scotty wasn't going to just stand by and take it. In a way, he encouraged me that I shouldn't either. Yeah, my dad died drunk behind the wheel of his semi when I was 3. Sorry, brother. Anyhow, you can borrow that guitar for a while to get some practice. Whoa. Thanks, man. Shall we? He said as we walked out to the truck. We hopped on the truck bed. I loaded the amp and guitar case before we got on. Where do you live, Cal? Over by Walkin' Mall on Pothole Road. Spelled P-A-T-O-L-L. If you take West Road, just keep going straight, and I'll tell you when to stop. Then we start taking off after everyone got in the bed of the truck. You guys were awesome tonight, Bradley shouted with his whiny prepubescent voice. Yeah, guys, it did sound pretty good tonight. I think we could be a pretty decent band, Scotty replied. My drumming was so weak, but I was feeling loose. Devin pulled himself to his feet and shouted at the moon, Whoa! Then he squatted back down and put his fist out to me for a fist bump. Woo? He asked. We bumped fist. Woo, I replied. Then he held his fist out for Scotty. Woo? Scotty bumped it. Woo. Devin looked over to Brad, who was holding out his fist. You gotta be a member of the band, man. Sorry. Brad and Marcos looked at each other in disappointment. What the hell? Bump it, I said as I held my fist out to Marcos. They each bumped it. It felt awkward with them being excluded. The next day, I left a note in case my mom came home, letting her know I'd be at Scotty's after school, and I left a number. I hadn't seen my mom in a week or so. She was staying at the hospital a lot. Either that or she stayed at a coworker's. I was fine with that. I had a new group of people to hang out with. I wasn't really alone. It was a new experience for me. We'd hang out in our little group before school started. The difference between us and the rest of them is we weren't a clique. We were a band. Whenever a girl with big boobs came around, Devin would turn to them and yell, "Boobs!" It was immature, but we thought it was funny at the time. After school, we hopped onto the truck, and I went to pick up the guitar and amp from home. I checked the voicemail before I left. "Calvin, it's Mom. I'd like to go out for dinner tomorrow night. I'm at my friend Ruby's, 824-4627. Call me." More code. I had a strange feeling about this. It was way too random and out of nowhere. I called her up and her friend answered. Then her friend gave her the phone. "Hello? Mom? Hi. So why do you want to go out to dinner all of a sudden? Can't a mother just want to have dinner with her son without a reason?" "Yes, but usually when things like this are random. With you, there's a reason. Look, I'm going to be off early tomorrow night. I'll pick you up and we'll go to Carlito's diner. It'll be nice." "Whatever, I gotta go. See you tomorrow night." Then I hung up the phone and went to practice. The next day I came home after school and waited for my mom to come home. I worked on one of the new songs our band was writing. We hadn't come up with a name yet, but we were just starting out. A few hours later, Mom came home. "Hi, I'm just gonna go get ready real quick." Then she stops and looks at me in my black jeans and white shirt that I wore. I wrote "The Damned" on the shirt. "Are you really gonna wear that? How about that nice black shirt I bought for you, with the collar?" "Why does that matter?" "You should look nice when you go out. That's all." I'm not changing. She never cared about my image before, so why did she care then? Didn't make any sense to me. So we parked the car at Carlito's diner and went inside, where Mom immediately walked up to this tall guy with broad shoulders, dark hair, and a square-shaped face. "Hi, Calvin. I'd like you to meet my new boyfriend, Dr. David Giles." Dr. Giles extended his hand for me to shake. As I took a step back and pointed a finger in the air, I was a tad upset. "I know exactly what you're doing. We get together, you hope that we can bond, or at least get to know each other. Yes, I realize you are not trying to replace my father. Yes, I know you love my mother. I know she just wants me to get to know you. But this is the most cliché surprise ever. I give you both my blessing. I think this is more of a date night kind of thing. So it's a nice night. We only live a mile away. You two have fun. I'm just gonna..." I pointed towards the door and walked out. Mom immediately followed. Calvin, come back here. You were very rude to him." I turned around. "Rude? How about a little honesty? Can't a mother just want to have dinner with her son without a reason?" "That sounds like a reason to me, Mom." "If I told you the reason, you wouldn't have come. How would that make things any different?" I shouted. I continued my walk home. A few minutes later, Dr. Dave drove up next to me and rolled down the window. "Need a lift?" "No, but thank you," I said without making eye contact. I think you and I should talk about this. I think we are talking. Listen, your mother just wants to have dinner together. She doesn't mean anything by it. I think we've already covered this. She just wants us to get to know each other, which in my opinion is not necessary. She can do what she wants with her life. You know, I'm not a bad guy. I don't see what the harm is in just hanging out over a dinner. He replied, honestly, if we met under different circumstances, I'd understand. But I think you should get back to your date with my mom. Then he drove off and I kept walking. I wasn't as frustrated as I was annoyed. The whole situation just seemed so awkward to me. 30 minutes later, I made it home. The mom came in a few moments later. You are a very selfish child. I'm selfish? You're acting like it's just us going out for dinner. Then that guy comes along and I am selfish? You could have just sat there, ate your food, and relaxed. But no, you stormed out like a child. I could smell the alcohol on her breath. She had a few drinks since I left. If I sat there, you two would have been flirting, or somehow I would have been the third wheel. It would have been awkward. If that makes me a child, then so be it. I just wanted you to meet him, to talk. Who knows? You might have something in common. I rolled my eyes. Unless he listens to punk, is a musician, plays Super Mario, or gets tormented by jocks at Borden High, which I highly doubt, I don't think we would have anything in common. This is more than just some casual dating thing to me. This is more than just some casual dating thing to me. I know you're serious about this. You wouldn't have introduced me if you weren't. Is it so wrong that I want another man in our lives? Then she started to cry. I realized that the situation wasn't just about her relationship with Dave. It was more than that. It was about putting together a family that broke and drifted apart. Her husband died. Her oldest son had moved away. She wanted to patch that feeling of loneliness that I was all too used to. She wanted to feel whole again. She wanted to belong. Just like I started to feel with the band. Hey, it's okay. I get it now, I said, as I embraced her.